Join me today as we explore more possibilities with dangles for our junk journals. Thank you so much for supporting my videos, and today I want to have a free giveaway for making these tiles. Message me and I will be glad to send you this free digital download for making your next set of charms. Hi everyone, Patty here. I can't wait to show you how to make these little tiles to add to your journal pages. You need some heavy cardstock or recycled heavyweight cardboard. I like to use the covers from my watercolor pads and watercolor paper. That is about 140-pound paper. The back side of this watercolor pad is too heavy. You have to be able to cut layers after we make these, and too heavy of cardboard is too much to cut into tiny shapes. Here's another watercolor pad where the cover would be fine to use, but the back side is too heavy. I don't know the weight of this cardstock, but it's heavier, like 65-pound or more. These will have 3 pieces of cardstock when we get done, so it will work as a tile. 8.5 by 11 inch fits the free digital download giveaway perfect, so think about the size of your cardstock when looking for your piece. This piece of cardstock or cardboard is perfect for making our tiles in thickness and in weight. We are going to paint the cardboard to look like a wood back. I'm using burnt umber and raw umber. The cardboard soaks up the paint, and I don't do a smooth coat of any one color. I just blend the 2 colors to look like a wood grain paint going in one direction, because wood grain is one direction. We'll let this dry before we dry brush a lighter color and glue the free printable to our painted wood cardboard. Let this dry after you get it painted. Get your free 8.5 by 11 digi printed out on heavy paper. I printed this out onto 28-pound paper. Regular printer paper is 20 pounds, so you want something heavier than regular printer paper. I was hoping my painted cardboard piece was bigger so I could do a couple sheets, or at least 1.5, but only one fits the long way or portrait. Glue this down with matte medium onto the side you didn't paint, making sure the entire piece is covered with a generous coat of medium. Work out all the bubbles and cover the top with a little medium. Let this dry before you turn it over, and we add the lighter color to show the faux wood grain look. I used a chalk paint and hazelnut. Use what you have. Dry brush a coat, lightly paint onto your cardstock. When dry brushing, use a dry brush and very little paint. Go thin, and you can always go back and add a little more. We will be cutting these down to 1-inch tiles, so you will see a very small amount of the light color of paint you are using. Let this dry and to help give your tiles. I have distress ink in walnut, frayed burlap, and vintage photo. I used my sponge applicator and lightly went over the white start printed pages. You can customize these with any color to match your project. You don't need a lot of color because when you use the varnish over the top, it will blend these colors. Find some of your favorite stamps. I use some that look like postal stamps for mailing. I have canceled dates, circles, and waves. Randomly stamp all over the page. Don't try to stamp on each piece. Be very random and go over the page. When these are cut out, you will just see a hint of stamp on each piece. Make sure you use an archival ink. I'm using Ranger archival ink in jet black, permanent ink, and waterproof. Just keep stamping all over the tiles. That looks like stamps, the square pieces. I really like Liquitex varnish. It goes on smoothly and doesn't leave a bunch of bubbles. Don't shake varnish or you will get bubbles. Smooth the varnish over all the tiles all the way to each corner. Your oxide inks will run and make the page a nice vintage color. That's why we don't add too much oxide inks or the paper would be too dark. Go both directions when you lay the varnish down onto your paper, making sure you get all your pieces covered with the varnish. Let this dry, and while it's drying, we're going to work on our double-sided printed floral pages. We'll be adding our plain cardstock or recycled cereal box between the two pages of small floral pattern cardstock. I have 4 pieces of cardstock that is a pattern. I printed these out from a digital club, but you can use any cardstock with a small pattern. Spread your mod-podge or matte medium evenly on one side of the paper. If you don't put enough medium, or if you put too much medium onto the paper, you will get bubbles. So spread it evenly all the way to all 4 corners and every edge. Add your paper on top of the medium starting at one corner, lining up the edges and slowly lay the page on top. Make sure you work out all the bubbles. Don't try to lift up the edge and readjust. Just keep going over it and move the air bubbles out to the edge. You want to let each side dry before you turn it over to add your other piece of patterned cardstock. You will have 3 layers of glued pieces. Smooth out the edges with a card. You can go over the top with a little more medium. Work on getting all of your bubbles out. A few wrinkles will happen, but it will be okay. You can scrape over the top with an old credit card to help get the wrinkles and the bubbles smoothed out. You'll have 2 pages front and back with a printed floral pattern glued with a piece of cardstock between the pages, giving you 3 layers of glued heavy cardstock for these floral tiles. Here I'm using a pin to poke the bubbles, and that helps. And then I added a little more medium over the top to help smooth out some of those bigger bubbles. Make sure these are dry before you add your distressing inks. Page, I used the frayed burlap because it has it, and it went well with my cardstock color. This just gives it a vintage look and tones down the light background. These pages are double-sided, so go over both sides with distress inks. Don't add too much distress oxide, just a hint to tone down the starkness of the paper. This page has a brown and yellow color, so I chose Distress Ink in Walnut to distress or grunge up these floral. For some reason, I did not get it on camera painting the backside of this cardboard, but I wanted you to see how you can make it look like metal with this faux painted look. The back of this page, I faux painted it with blue, brown, and a silver gilding wax to look more like a metal backside for tiles. Lightly add the silver gilding wax all over the page in a bouncing fashion. A little goes a long way, and when these pieces are cut up, it will look like metal. The wood background has an aged copper gilding wax. Lightly spread all over the wood-looking background. I love gilding wax and how it makes everything look in the end. Cutting the strips with my scissors are hard on my hands, so I tried cutting the strips with my paper trimmer. The strips on my paper trimmer worked, and then I could cut them out each one separately with scissors. I still had to go back and forth with my trimmer to get through all the layers. Trim close to the edge, not leaving much of the white background. Keep cutting the tiles till you have them all cut out. I tried using my 1-inch hole punch through all of these layers to cut the circles out, but that didn't work because it was too thick, so I had to individually cut each circle out. But I think that the circle tiles are so cute. Trim off all the edges to square up your floral pages. It's quite a workout for my paper trimmer to cut through all of these layers that have been glued and matte mediumed between them and then varnished over them. After I get the 4 edges all squared up, I cut them into strips, about 3/4 of an inch strip and a 1-inch strip, and made them into tags about 1 inch to 1.5 inches long. Cut an old credit card for a template for cutting your corners on the tags. I made varying sizes of tags and added a little hole onto each corner. On my credit card, I have different sizes of angles for my tags that I've cut for larger tags and smaller tags. Punch a hole in the top of your tags and in the corner of your tiles. See, this piece had a bubble in it and the glue did not get glued down. So I can just go back and add a little bit of glue. I'm using art glitter glue. Just use a little bit. Make sure you wipe off any that smooshes out over the edges. After I got these all cut out, went around each tile with a little distress ink to vintage up the tiles and tags. I think these are going to be great additions to my journals. Let's decorate these up a little bit. A couple of the tiles, I just add a little lace and cheesecloth with a bulb pin. You can add a charm or layer 2 tiles together. Check out my video on dangles and faux seals listed in the description, and message me and get your free digital page to make your tiles. Thanks so much for watching, because it's all about the love of journaling and I love to make journals. Have a great day.